Hello, 6th graders. Welcome to Big Ideas Math, 7th grade math, section 3.4, solving equations using multiplication and division lesson. Pause while you write the lesson number and title in your math notebook. Pause again while you write today's lesson objective in your math notebook. Today's objective is students will formalize the process of solving equations using the multiplication and division properties of equality. Copy the following key ideas into your math notebook. Multiplication property of equality. Multiplying each side of an equation by the same number produces an equivalent equation. If A equals B, then A times C equals B times C. Division property of equality. Dividing each side of an equation by the same number produces an equivalent equation. If A equals B, then A divided by C equals B divided by C. However, C cannot equal 0. Today we'll be starting with example 1, solving equations. Letter A, solve x divided by 3 equals negative 6. As always, our first step is to write the equation. So x divided by 3 equals negative 6, and we're going to undo the division. So we are going to use the multiplication property of the equality and multiply both sides by 3. So 3 times 1 over 3 equals 1, and 3 times negative 6 equals negative 18. So you're left with a 1x, or just x on the left, and negative 18 on the right. So the solution is x equals negative 18. And always check your solutions by putting in your solution into the original equation. So it shows you how to do that on the right. Letter B, solve 18 equals negative 4y. Again, we write the equation first, and we're going to undo the multiplication by using the division property of equality. So that means we're going to divide both sides by the negative 4 that's stuck to the y with multiplication. So 18 divided by negative 4 equals negative 4y, and negative 4 divided by negative 4 equals 1. So that leaves us with a y on the right. So our solution is y equals negative 4.5. Now we're going to do the on your own problems. Remember to do these along with me in your math notebook. So number 1, x divided by 5 equals negative 2. So our first step is write the problem. And then we are going to multiply both sides by 5 in order to undo that division. So 5 times 1 over 5 equals 1. So we're left with an x on the left. Negative 2 times 5 equals negative 10. Moving on to number 2, we have negative a equals negative 24. So we need to remember that negative a is actually a negative 1a. So now we're going to use division. So we are going to divide both sides by negative 1. And so that equals a positive 1 there. And that leaves us with an a on the left. And negative 24 divided by negative 1 equals a positive 24. Number 3 is 3 equals negative 1.5n. And so we need to divide both sides by our negative 1.5. Negative 1.5. And when we do that, get a 1 over there, which leaves us with just an n on the right, and 3 divided by a negative 1.5 equals a negative 2. So example 2, solving an equation using a reciprocal, looks really tricky, but if you just follow the math, you're going to be okay. So it says solve negative 4/5 x equals negative 8. So as always, our first step is to write the equation. Negative 4/5 x equals negative 8. So we are using the multiplicative inverse property. Sounds really complicated? It's not. You're doing the same thing you were doing before. Negative 4/5 x is, the negative 4/5 is multiplied by the x. So you want to divide both sides by negative 4/5. Well, that means that you're multiplying both sides by 5/4, negative 5/4. So it's exactly what you know about dividing fractions, which is you multiply by the reciprocal. So we multiply both sides by negative 5/4. So on the left, that's going to give us a 1x, or just an x. And on the right, when we multiply that out, that gives us a 10. So we end up with x equals 10. So when we move on to the next slide, now let's do our next set of on your own problems. Again, remember that you are doing these with me and copying them into your notebook. Number four, we are going to undo the multiplication here, which means we are going to divide by 2/3. So when we divide by 2/3, we are going to multiply by the reciprocal. So that means we are going to multiply by 3 So your job to be sure you're finished up with this flipped lesson is to be prepared with your notes, vocabulary, and any other work from your flipped lesson completed, and be sure you have any questions ready for your teacher, and as always, have a great attitude.